Okay, in this video I want to talk about functions. And functions are sort of at the very end of the basic PHP stuff, the basic computer programming stuff. They're more intermediate level skills to have. And you're probably not going to use functions a whole lot. You might just in basic web development work, but you will come across them sometimes. So I'm going to spend just a few minutes talking about them. Now, functions are like everything else we've talked about so far. They're not based solely on PHP. Every programming language you ever use is going to have functions. You know, in Ruby, they call them methods, but they're the same thing. Most programming languages, they all have functions. And so it's a basic computer programming concept that you sort of need to learn. So let's type functions here and erase some of this stuff. Now, PHP handles functions in a similar fashion to everything else we've done. Our if-then statements, our loops, they all have the same kind of look to them. And functions look sort of the same way. In fact, a function looks like this. So you might call it function, call the thing function. Now we need to name it. Let's name it my function. And then we have these guys. And then this guy. So do some stuff, return some stuff, right? So this is the same sort of basic layout. I mean, this looks very similar to our for loops and our while loops and our even, everything we've done so far. Our arrays, they all kind of look like this, like our if statement was if. Instead of writing my function, we wrote if. Now this is an if statement, right? But in this case, it's a function. So in PHP, there's really a couple of different types of functions you're going to have to worry about. The first are functions that we write ourselves, functions we build to do a specific thing. And that's sort of what this thing is right here. But also, PHP has built-in functions that you're going to reference from time to time, and you actually will use these quite a bit. For instance, if you want to know what the current date is, you can call PHP's date function and it will output the date. If you want to know the current time, you can call PHP's time function and it will output, the time. So those are very, very easy to use. I'm not even going to explain those. We'll see some of those as we move on in the course. They're very, very simple stuff, and you can look up those online whenever you need them. But building a function that actually does something, we'll spend just a minute going over. Really, you don't need to know much more than just this because, especially in the beginning here, when you're learning, you're not going to deal with functions all that much, but we might as well build one. So let's erase what we got, and let's just make a really quick one. So type in function, and let's call this function write message. And inside the function, we want to echo out hello world. So if I erase this and hit save and hit reload, nothing will come up here. Why? Because we haven't actually called the function. Whenever you create a function, you then have to call it. And to call a function, we just type the name of the function with its two little brackety things here. And that's it. So if we save this, hit reload, it echoes out hello world. So what's going on here is we're calling the function, and in between these two brackety things, that's where we would pass an argument. If we wanted to send an argument into this function, this is where we would do it. Now that might not make a whole lot of sense to you, and it doesn't in this example at all. So let's make another example where we're actually going to pass something into the function. So let's change this around. Let's call this function namer. And change that to namer. Now let's echo out, hello, my name is, and then names. And let's put names right there. So basically what we have here is our function. It's called namer. And here's the argument that we're going to pass in. And the function is going to take that argument and output it to the screen. So when we call our function, if we call it just like this, we save this, hit reload, it's missing an argument. So to pass an argument in, we need to type it in. My name is John Elder. So let's save this. So basically what's going on here is, here's where we're calling the function. And I'm saying I want to pass in this information into the function. This information gets assigned to this variable, and then the function happens and it outputs whatever is in that variable. So we save it, come back here, hit reload. Hello, my name is John Elder. We can just change this to John. Hello, my name is John. So these are functions. Again, might not make a whole lot of sense. We're not going to use these for a little while. These are more advanced sort of things. Just need to be aware of these things. These exist. A function, you create a function, you pass something into it. This is how you call it. And that's pretty much functions. So we'll get into all this in greater detail later on. You just need to sort of be aware of it and sort of start to think about these things. We might not need to use them, like I said, right away or ever really. If you're just doing web development work, you might not actually ever use functions. If you're doing more back-end stuff like creating a shopping cart or something, then yeah, you're definitely going to be using functions. But if you're just building a website, a basic website, you're not ever going to use functions. So that's all for this video. And if you want to get my entire PHP course absolutely free, head over to codemy.com/freephp. That's codemy.com/freephp.